So we have a quorum, so let's get started. Welcome to another Macanta case study webinar. There's at least one familiar face. Welcome, Eugene. You definitely win the long service medal. It's great to have you with us again. Hope you'll either see something you've seen before in a different light or see something new. We've definitely got some, well, we do have some new things to show, don't we, Peter?
Yes, but because of where I am in the app, I'm not going to show it at the start, because
okay.
I'll build the consequence. I'll build what it is the consequence of.
Okay,
and then
great.
You can see it.
Yeah, so for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, usually at the start of these case studies, we just spend a few minutes talking about how Macanta has evolved over the last week. One of our core values is that Macanta will be better tomorrow than it is today. And it's great to have this opportunity to sort of be accountable to that evolution. Well, a case study would not be a case study without a case study to do. And this evening we're joined by Charlie McClelland of ASGF, a strategic, you're going to have to help me out, a strategic growth facilitator.
Yes, strategic growth facilitator.
Yeah. So Charlie and I had a chat a few weeks ago when he responded to something that we ran with the Entrepreneur Circle, and certainly the conversation that we had, it seemed that it would be a good fit, and here we are a few weeks later. So Charlie, tell us a little bit about your business, what you do, who you serve, and what you've seen in Macanta that's kind of made you want to hang out with us for a couple of hours. More for you, I think. No, it'll be good. It'll be good. We'll treat you kindly.
That's nice, thank you. So most people would think of me as a business coach or a business consultant, but I worry a little when I hear those terms, because some business coaches I think are very prescriptive, and if your business doesn't fit their way of thinking, it's very challenging to move forward. So in terms of what I do, I just want companies to grow. I want them to be more successful, and everything I offer is very bespoke, and it's aimed very much at the company that I'm working with. So there's really two major phases of what I do. The first part is finding the person that needs help, nurturing the relationship, making sure I'm doing everything on point, and then also hopefully that they will agree that they need the help and they like what I can offer. And that's where I think most CRM systems tend to stop. Woohoo! We got the order, move on, as if I'm just some kind of salesman. And actually, to me, yes, it's clearly very important to get the client, but for me, that's when the work starts. And because everything is so bespoke, I really want to keep tabs on which projects am I running, for who, how far have I got with it with each one, who's doing the next bit, is it me, is it them, do I need to chase them, am I expecting a response from them, do I need to sort of tickle them along? And historically, I've tried various different CRM systems, and some of them look like they might work well, and they might have one really cool feature, like, you know, some of them are really good at integrating with email, so you can see the emails you've seen. Some of them are good at integrating with your mobile phone, so if you have a conversation, you know, you can say, oh, I spoke to him last Thursday, but, you know, none of them really kind of hold everything together. And I like the idea of what you described as a thing that has building bricks, and you can label the building bricks and you can assemble them in the order they want. And in an ideal world, they give me what I want. So this is where I put you on the spot and say, off you go.
It's really interesting to hear you. It's always interesting when we ask that question to kind of hear what other people see in what we've built, because sometimes when you're really close to something, you can't see it with fresh eyes. But Peter came up with a phrase a while ago that the Macanta is about helping you with the business of your business, not the marketing and sales of your business. And it's kind of really what you've echoed there. The business of your business is making sure that your projects stay on track and you're reminded what to do and when. So let's see if we can get that first iteration, that first draft, if you like, of your Macanta system out the doors by the end of today's session. So without much further ado, Peter de Villiers, over to you.
Yeah, so as we always do on these sessions, I've done a bit of work in advance, so we'll just quickly tidy up the interface a bit, and then I think we'll get into a bit of automation and some of the more technical stuff, and perhaps the Macanta query builder as well. So let me share my screen. This is always where I'm not sure if it goes right. So you can see Macanta?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the basic outline of what Charlie and I discussed on Monday, I think it was, is that the work you do is done for a company. So we have a company as a data object. You do projects for those companies. So we have a project as a data object, and then you also want to do some minimal invoice tracking inside the system as well. So we have a basic invoice data object that we've created as well. So we can go and look at that. At the moment, it's all a bit messy and all over the place, and the projects look even worse because I haven't really done anything with that, because I wanted some input from you, Charlie. So if we just go in to begin with each of these data objects, to just go and put the fields into subsections and that kind of thing. So we can just go over to the connector under admin. And first up, we'll go with the company. So we don't have, at this stage, and we'll probably add some more, we don't have that many fields, but I think it's worth tidying them up a bit. So if you can give me a bit of guidance on what you would want together. So we've got address details, we've got what they provide and number of employees, and this is all taken off the spreadsheet that you sent me. And then of course we've got name and phone number. So my suggestion would be to group company name, what they provide, and number of employees together, and then group all the contact information together, starting with phone number and then addresses. Is that okay? I think you're muted, Charlie. Unmute.
I am. I beg your pardon. I normally keep it muted, so in case I rattle the desk or my chair squeaks or something. But no, I'm agreeing with you completely.
Okay, that's great. So all I need to do is move those about, and then we can go in and we'll call this subsection overview. And then we'll call this subsection contact. Ah, you know what I haven't done? I haven't started my little cursor thing, Pete.
Ah, yes.
I'll do that in a moment. Having got it at great expense, I should use it. I can't remember what it's called, so it doesn't come up. Let me grab that quickly. Cursor Pro, there we go. Look at that, now you can see where I am. So we look at company, so now we can see those have been grouped together into those subsections.
Nice.
It's a bit easier to keep track of what is where. You can have up to 4 columns here, so if we add more information, we can split those out again. So let's go and have a look at project, which there's a bit more information on. So here we've got Again, related company, which we'll come into, project title, project objective. We've got next action type, next action date, and next action description. And then start date, duration, next meeting date, I put in there.
Yep.
So just how would you like those grouped?
I think certainly the title and the company need to go together. Probably the start date could go in there. So we're effectively creating a project overview.
Yeah. So that we've got the company, the title, the objective, and the start date.
Yeah.
And then actions can all go together.
Yeah.
With the meeting probably. And then would duration go up in this section as well?
Up at the top, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. So again, we can say this is
project overview or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this one can just be actions.
Yep.
Okay, so save that. And then invoicing is really simple. We've only got the 4 fields in that. And let's go here. And we can just put all 4 of them for the time being in the same group. So we've got 5 fields. So we've got related company, invoice number, service item, invoice status, and invoice amount.
Yep.
And we can just say, okay, so I've not done this bit. So I've added some relationship. You had company owner. So we've got key contact, team member, and supplier.
Yep.
Which of these do you want to connect to the invoice, or do we want to have a separate relationship for that?
I think I'd like a separate one for
Billing.
I don't know what. Yeah, billing or it's very clunky, but invoice person. I mean, I think they have a name like accounts payable, don't they, or something? But
yeah,
I mean, I would call it invoice person.
Yeah. Invoice contact, accounts contact, something like that. But
yeah, that's much better.
okay, so all I need to do in that instance is go into the relationship, and we're going to add one. And we say this is, what did I say? Accounts contact.
You did, yep.
Yep.
Accounts contact, save that. And then when I go back to here,
there's another relationship I'd like to add, which is referrer. So some people are active referrers for me.
yeah,
And they could work for any company you might name. They might be a client, or they might be something completely different.
yeah. So they would, in that instance, they could hold 2 relationships, because I could be the company owner on one, but I'm the referrer on something else, so that you know who referred who.
Yes, and if you think that I'm a superstar because I've done something wonderful for your company, you would absolutely be a referrer.
Yeah. Okay. So if I just go back to invoice, then we can say accounts contact, And I'm going to say accounts contact, there can only be one.
That's fine.
For that. Okay. So now we can go back to the interface and we can see where those changes have happened. We are combating Netflix. So company we looked at, and we've got that in those sections there.
Yep.
Project we have set there. And then invoices is just quite simple with those bits in there. So just so that you can see what I've done here, we've created in the company, for everyone's benefit, the company name, I've checked this box here to say, yes, it is data reference. We're going to use that, the company name, as a data reference. What that allows us to do is when we come down to the project, we can then have a field called related company, or you could call it whatever you want. But then when it comes to field type, company name becomes available out of the company. And what that does for you is every time you add a company to the system, this field automatically gets updated so that you can select that field next time round.
Good.
And that would be the same in the invoice, that you've got that same field. So those would populate. So if we go and create a company, I'm on my record.
ASGF.
Have that, we can, I do product 1, 5 to 9, I'll leave the rest. I can then say company owner, save that. So now that company exists here, and I refresh so that the whole system knows there's a new company, and I can then go and add a project and an invoice at the same time for that. So if we go over to the project, then I can say add a new project, and now Macanta is an option in there. And I can then put in a title, and it works the same on, so this is project 1, and I'm the company owner, and I can have that, and then I can have the same function under the invoice. So that those are constantly in sync. And we just save that. So if I were to add a second company, then that list will then become 2, and over time, you'll have all your companies in there.
Yep. Good.
So if we just look at company, is there any information that we're missing? I just want to go through company, project, and invoice and see if there are any fields we're missing that's key before we move on to some of the other pieces. And if it's not obvious, anyone in the chat, if you have any questions, just throw them at us.
If I'd got some documentation, so if I'd done some research about this lovely company, Macanta Software Limited, where would I attach the documents? Because as part of my engagement or company selection, I might think, oh, they have the right turnover. I found this out about them. I know what they do. So, oh, okay, it's down there. So I just drop the file in. Okay.
And the important thing to note with this file attachment section here is you are attaching it to the company, not to the contact.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do.
Yeah. So it lives on the company, so that if you've got 5 people with a relationship to this company, you can look at any of those people, see the company, and see the document. It's not buried on one of the contacts. It's specifically on on the company. And the same, you obviously have that same functionality on the project, where you can attach documents and things specific to a specific project onto that as well.
Yeah.
So just while on that, Catherine has a question. Can you add freehand notes to that too?
Freehand notes as in?
As in type it in the box. Don't bother with the whole document. So it might just say, what would it say? I want to work with these guys because I think they've got lots of money.
Yeah. And then attach that as a note to here.
Yes.
You can...
No, not attach it as a note, just type it in and have Macanta understand that that's a note that I want to attach. I think that's what Catherine's saying.
Is that
like notes for contacts, but notes on
the company itself? So yeah, at the moment, you can add a note to the contact. This will load nothing, but you can add a note to the contact here, but not to the data object itself, which is not a bad idea.
Yeah, it has come up in internal discussions, so it's good to hear it. It's always good to hear our ideas validated by users, Catherine. So thanks for that question.
Yeah, someone asking for what we want as well. So outside of that, you do have the option, and we have done it on a few installations, where you have a text box like this. You enter details in here and save it, and that then gets turned into a note. And at that point, you can then decide, well, do I want to turn it into a note and attach it to this company, or do I just want to turn it into a note and write it onto the contact? Excuse me, but that's slightly outside the scope of what I can do on one webinar.
Yeah, okay.
So is that all the information that you think you would want here?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so if we then go to the project, we have a related company, we have a project title, we have the project objective, we can set a start date. Duration, I had to make some stuff up. So I just went one-off, recurring, 13612 or ongoing.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Okay. Next action type, email with too many capitals, call, networking, meeting, research, or complete diagnostic.
Yep.
And then, so you can choose, okay, I've got to call them on the 20th. Yep. This is what I'm going to call them about.
Oh, okay. So I'm just looking at the date format. Okay, I can get used to that. Can we default it to an English date format?
No.
Okay.
It's international date format, and because the complexities of having the date format right for everyone who logs in is, at some point it might be at the top of the list, but at the moment it feels aesthetic.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, that's the date format I use when I file meeting notes anyway, as part of the file name, so that they go in proper chronological order.
Yeah. So that'll be the date. We can set a description. Once we've gone through the interface, we can come on to where you can have your list of next actions that you have to do. And we can go on that. And then the next meeting date, I've just done a date and time.
That's fine, that's perfect.
Did you need any more detail around that or not?
No, the only thing that would be useful is a concept of location. So is it virtual on Zoom? Are they coming to me? Am I going to them? So,
okay. So let's.
How does that out of interest, how does that differ to next action date? If the next action was a meeting and the next action date was the date of the meeting, well, what is the next meeting date? Why is there a separate field required for that?
The next
right, okay, Peter, what this is about is there will be a meeting which, for example, will happen in a month's time. but I may have an action that says in a week's time or tomorrow or whenever, I might have some homework that I have to do in order to be ready for that meeting.
Right. So you want to be able to always see what the placeholder for the next meeting is, but also know what your things you got to do leading up to that. That's great. Excellent.
Yeah.
So if we go in, I have to save this first. If we go in, I will we'll add some headings to this section just to make it a bit clearer. So for next action type,
can we have that virtually, or no, I won't use the word virtually. Can we have that duplicated, because there will be next actions for me and next actions for the client?
Yeah, we can split those out. So let me do the one bit, and then we'll look at how we can do that. So if we go in the project at next action type, we'll have, what I can do is I can add a heading above the field. So my actions can be there. Then next meeting date is going to be the second field. So I'm going to add another field in here for meeting location. And then we'll have options of client office.
Yeah, client site, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Client's
office. Not at the moment, of course.
No. Virtual. Any other options?
Yeah, my office, ASGF office. Yeah, ASGF office. And then other, because sometimes we meet in a coffee shop.
Yeah, okay. So this is then actions. And what I can do is I can put a heading here to say meetings. And if we go back and have a look, then you'll see where the headings are. And then do you want a version of that section, but that's the client, you keeping track of what the client has to do?
Yes.
Yeah, so now here we've got my actions and meetings with the different options, and then the meeting date and time. So for next action,
sorry, yeah, I'm trying to anticipate you because I think you've got what I want. But yeah, so those top three, next action type, action date, and action description, are the ones that I would like replicated for the client.
For the client, okay. So we'll go in here and we'll do that as a separate. Would the options of the actions be fairly similar?
Yes.
Okay, so action type.
This is where that field cloning that Mark brought up the other day, Peter. I can see now where that might come in handy.
Yeah.
Is it a rare use case?
Yeah. If I can clone extra broadband to my house, I'll go for that first.
T1 line in.
Yeah, if Branson can give me my speed back, then I'll be far happier. So we've
probably got too many neighbours working from home.
And I think they're just watching Netflix. So now we'll have client action, because I can't have two fields with the same title.
Yeah, that's fine.
So client action type.
And actually, I'm just wondering if that could be just a text field rather than have a number of choices.
Yeah.
Because I think whatever I'm asking the client to do is so variable. you know, it's a bit petty to say I'm expecting him to email me back. It's
Yeah.
not really, you know, I'm expecting him to get some work done on his, or make some decisions, or do something.
Yeah.
And get back to me.
Okay, so we've got type and action date, action description. So actually we only need the date and the description, don't we?
Yes, I think so.
Client action description, under client actions, and then we'll have client action date. Okay, so let me save that. So there you go. So now you've got on this side, client action description, client action date.
Yep, great.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to tidy this up because client actions, that's fine. So invoices, we've got what we need. We know which company. So just before we started, I talked to you about the fact that I think what would be really useful is to have another field here that tells you which of the client projects this is for.
Yes, and I agree.
Yeah.
What's the, basically what's the invoice for? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the related company and we've got the project title.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that, and this might seem a roundabout way to do it, but really I'm going to create a field that is really going to be, you can hide it from the team because it's a system, it's a back-end field that we just need to use, that we are going to generate a concatenated field between related company and project title.
Yep.
So that when you're in the drop-down list, you can start typing the company name, it jumps to all of their projects, and you can select the right one that the invoice is for, rather than trying to remember. If we just go by project title, you end up with a list that actually doesn't tell you much, and it'll be really hard to find.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
well, let's see it. We've not done this before.
Also, is it possible that if stage payments or monthly payments for a project, would I be able to add a digit on the end? So for instance, if it came up Macanta P1 for project 1, could I put .1 on the end to say that's the first payment, second payment, third payment? So add a .1, .2, .3. Can I mess with the numbering system?
In which field are you talking about there?
The one that you're about to create. The one that you're about to create that says you are going to mash things together and come up with a unique ID, or is that a single ID?
Yeah, that's going to be a unique name for the project that the invoice belongs to. So it doesn't really take into account at that point whether it's payment 1, 2, 3, or 4.
No, that's it'll have a date on it anyway, I imagine.
Yeah, and you'll have the invoice number for and more detail there.
That's the point Charlie just mentioned about the invoice date. Is that a piece of information that's useful?
Yeah, that's a field we can add in there. So I'll come back to that because I have to create the other field first before I can tell the system that that field is going to feature here. So essentially, just for anyone who has lost track of what's going on in my head, what we were able to do is we've got companies, and every company I create, I can reference that company in a field in projects. What I want to do now is in invoices reference the projects. but the project title is freehand, and therefore there's no indication on that field in a drop-down list of all of them which company it's for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use automation to concatenate those two fields into a field that no one's going to see on the interface by the time this is being used, and that is the field that will be referenced on the invoice. So that it'll always be company name, project title, and it's
just
easy to find.
Just for you, Peter, this is of immense value to me, so I'm really pleased you're doing this, because some of the projects I do are likely to have incredibly similar names. So for instance, if somebody wants sales boost and they want me to go in and train their sales folk and do all the stuff I do, then that's likely to be, you know, company name sales boost. It is, you know, so it's perfect what you're doing.
Okay. So what we're going to do is a bit of automation.
There will come a point in time where you don't have to go through this explanation every time.
Pardon?
I said there will come a point in time when you won't need to go through this, but repetition is the mother of all learning.
Yeah, well,
so
only if the same people turn up for every webinar and they've all heard.
That is true.
So
that is true.
When I build automation in Macanta, I always build it from right to left, even though it's being used from left to right. And Jean actually asked me, why on earth do I do that? And the reason I do that, the best analogy I can give you is, if you want to get into your car and drive somewhere, the first thing you have to do is unlock the car and open the door. But when the car is built on the production line, they don't start with the door handle. And it's the same thing. The other parts of the car has to be in place before you can hang the door and therefore have somewhere to fit a door handle. And that's why it looks as if I'm doing it backwards, because I am, but it's just because of the way this works and the functions that we have here.
Yep.
So what we want to do in this instance is we want to say to Macanta, I want you to take whatever values you find in these two fields and write it into this field over here as a pair, and we'll probably have them hyphen separated. So the first thing we're going to do is create the field that we want that written into. So we go into projects and we're going to add a field. And this field will be called project reference. And the field type is going to be text. Yes.
Yep.
The section name is going to be tracking. And when we come to it, we'll hide that from everyone. And this is going to be data reference because we are going to use it referenced on the invoices. So I'll save that there and let it refresh. And then we can go to the automation.
This is so cool. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. So then so just to explain how the automation in Macanta works is if this, then that. And it's not the case that a contact, so with a lot of email marketing platforms and other CRMs, you've got graphical interface where you build your automation, but that means the contact has to be left of a decision point in order for that decision to be affected. And then it flows through. And you've got to keep putting the contact back to where it needs to be so that the next thing can happen and the next thing. Our automation simply looks at the state of the data. So if a field meets something, do that. And that's all it is. Added to that with these trigger actions, we've added webhook actions, email actions, and field actions, which is a bit like a payload on a bomber plane, where we're saying take this action, and at the same time send this webhook to QuickBooks, send this email to the person in accounts, and also perform another action, or any combination of those things that you can put together. But it's not triggered by the contact being somewhere in a sequence. It's simply triggered by the data meeting a condition that we're going to set up in a moment. So first we're going to set up the action, and this is going to be set project reference. And I always try and label these with the if this then that in mind. So it's going to be if what our condition is, then set project reference. Okay.
Yep.
So this is for the project. We're going to use the key contact in this instance, and we can change this. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I remember from when we spoke that the company owner isn't necessarily always the key contact for a particular project for that company.
Correct.
It could be that it's someone else who's actually doing it. So every project will have a key contact. It could be the same person as the person who is actually the company owner, but we have that distinction between key contact for projects and company owners because they're not always the same human being.
Correct.
Okay, so we've got that. Then we're going to say we want to now tell it what to do. And I'm going to find, have I chosen project? And we've got project reference. So that's the field I'm asking it to write information into. And I know the details for this. So cd dot, is it related company? And then we want it to be cd dot project title. So I'll save that and then just go and make sure. So related company, just as it's typed, project title, just as it's typed. So if I go here, my field labels are related company, project title. So just to explain what I'm telling it to do there, I'm saying take the what you find in the related company and what you find in the project title, merge them into this field, split by a hyphen, and that's then going to write that into that field on that particular data object, so for that company. So now that we have that, we've told it what to do, the then that. Now we have to tell it when to do it, under what conditions. So here we're going to say if company reference is null. Project reference is null. It's going to be for projects. That's our data object type. I'm going to say restart after never, because once it's set, it's set. It doesn't have to happen again. What the restart after basically does is if we set that to 1 day, then even though we check the data near enough every 5 seconds, it'll only action for this particular data object once a day. It'll find it, it'll do the action, and then it's going to keep checking all the other data, and it'll bypass this one for 24 hours and just ignore it, and then it'll take the action again. So that's helpful if you, for instance, you want to count how old the deal is, for instance, how old is a project, because you can then say, well, okay, every day increment this number by 1. And in that instance, I want that condition to be triggered every day. In this instance, we only need it once.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I can then say relationship and field conditions. It's for the key contact that's going to drive this. And what that means is if a project doesn't have a key contact, this won't run. This will only run for the key contact, but it's good that every project has a key contact. So now we're going to say, what are the data conditions? So our first one is that the project reference is null. Okay.
Doesn't that mean empty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I want this to run, if the project reference is empty.
Of course, yeah. If it hasn't got one already. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking project reference was the name, but it's not. It's what we're building. Yep.
Yeah. But what I also need to be careful of is I don't want it to run with blank data. So we say and, so the project reference needs to be null.
Yeah.
The project title is not null.
Yeah.
I have to have a value in the project title, and I have to have a value in the related company.
Yep.
Oh, damn.
So only when I have filled in and saved the related company, I have filled in and saved the project title, and I've connected a key contact, will this run. And then it's not going to run again because now my project reference isn't empty anymore.
Yep, got that. Yep. Happy with that, thank you.
And
So
you don't have to. You don't have to think about, applying tags to achieve goals, to put the contact into the right campaign of a sequence or whatever. It's just the automation is running according to the state of the data. Once the data meets all the right criteria, the automation runs. So you have much more certainty and reliability about the automation.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've created our condition, we've created our action, but at this point, those two pieces are like two different holes on an old school patch bay. They're just two options. They've not been connected because this, again, everything runs like Lego. I can have other things triggered when the data, the project reference is being filled in. So what I need to do next is to essentially make my patch bay connection. I have to put my patch lead in. So I create an automation group because for each of these, for companies, projects, invoices, I can have it grouped so that it's not just this big pile of Lego, but it's a bit organized. So here we're going to say projects. And then I just say if the project reference is null, because that's what I called it, then set the project reference. I can put a wait in. In this instance, we don't need it, but there are examples where waiting a day or an hour or 5 minutes or whatever is useful. Make sure to turn it on and click save. Okay.
Yep.
So this shouldn't take long to run. I haven't got the database open, so I can't check.
Do you have data objects that meet the criteria?
I should have.
Yeah, we have a key contact to the project. I don't know if you're assigned to the project yet, Peter.
Am I the key contact? Let's make it key contact. So in this instance, I now hold two relationships, which is perfectly valid. So now I meet the criteria. So in a moment, that'll be filled in. Hopefully, Macanta Software Limited, Project 1. And then that becomes available in the invoice as a reference.
Just something for me. How do I know that you're the key person for that project? Is it just because we're looking at this page?
Yes, so you can see at the top here, we're looking at my record. Okay, so my name's at the top here.
Yep.
We've selected project. When I scroll up, this bar comes down, so you still know you're looking at my contact. So it's as if you're looking at this project through the lens of my contact.
Yeah, got it. Yep.
If I have, and you can see here that it says Peter de Villiers' relationship is this, other related, so I can do this while we wait. So I'm going to connect you. And I'm going to say you are the supplier for this project. Okay. So now you can see I'm company owner and key contact. You're the supplier. When I go and look at your record, I'll see this project and I'll see under other related contacts that Peter is the company owner and key contact.
Yeah, so that's really useful. So if I had somebody else working with me on that project, I could just add them in as another supplier or whatever.
Yeah. And then you can trigger automation off the back of that. So let's go and see. I might have overwritten this, hopefully I've not. I think I know what's happened. Give me a second, let me just check. I had this open and clicked save with that field blank, and I believe I've overwritten what I did. So talk amongst yourselves. Any questions?
Not at the moment.
I'm just thinking how we could potentially mitigate that. It's the classic example, isn't it, that we're doing something that isn't real world.
Yeah.
A scenario.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. What you do in testing isn't reflective of
never
real
real.
world.
Yeah. So that has run. From what I can see, yeah, that's just run. So I'm going to create another company or another project,
another project,
and then we'll see that again. So I'll go Macanta again, project 2. And in this instance, I'm just going to be the key contact, and I can save that. And now I have the database open on the other screen, so I can just tell us when that has run. And this again is an example of it's not real world, because it's like watching a kettle boil. The few seconds it takes to actually do it doesn't really matter, because you'll be doing something else.
Yeah. You can often do something else. Exactly.
You'll have work to do. If I go and refresh that.
As if by magic.
Out of the way, zoom. So now we go to the project. Project 2. Under tracking. Macanta Software Limited Project 2.
Yep.
Now been written in there, which means I can go to my invoice. We've not added the field there, so we go back, and you wanted an invoice date as well, didn't you?
Yes, please.
So under invoices, we'll related company, and then we'll have related project. I keep in my head for a split second, I keep trying to move that green thing out of the way. And now you can see I've got under here, I've got project reference as another reference option. Let me just check, what did we call the subsection? Invoice detail. And then we should have Macanta Software Limited dash the project available as an option to link that invoice to.
We're going to add the date in as well. You can do that.
Yeah, I forgot. There you go. So that's now there. And I'll go back and add the date. Invoice number. I think I'd remember. Save that. Now I can go to the invoice. And we have our invoice date available as well.
And the majority of, just to clarify with people watching, is that invoice data objects will actually be created by an integration with QuickBooks, won't they? The invoice will be created in QuickBooks and will just be stored here as a reference for people that want to be able to see the payment history, but you don't want to have them logging into QuickBooks and seeing everything there.
Yeah, and again, I think that's really important because the accounting software, whatever is counting your beans, I think should be a piece of accounting software. But more importantly, there should only be one of them, because I've seen people get into a complete muddle because the CRM system is raising invoices, which then get copied across to the accounting system by people, not electronically. And you think, like, don't do that. Just have one, and then, as you're doing here, reference it. And obviously, this is fabulous. This is the right way to do it, in my opinion.
Right. So that's where we are with that. That didn't take very long.
Is there any other automation that can be run?
What happens if I get to the date that something is supposed to be done by and I haven't done it? How does it kick my butt? How does it remind me?
So we can go for projects, and we can go by next action date. Next action type, next action date, next action description. Those are the things. So we can create a Macanta query for my next actions, and then any dates that are upcoming, I'll show you. You can add a widget on the dashboard that says you've got so many to do this week.
Yeah. Something I've realized is missing from here. Doesn't say that I've done it. There's no concept of completed.
Yeah. So there's two things there. And the one I'm going to resist doing on the webinar, only because by Friday, the way that I would show you to do it here will be the wrong way to do it. Because we've got a release out on Friday that will make it a lot simpler to do automated task generation and stuff. So I don't really want to spend time doing the hard way, because we want people to forget about the hard way.
Good, makes sense.
But yes, so what we'll do in this instance, we'll set up the Macanta query, because there's a couple of things with how that will then work that you can see. But yes, you can completely, in an automated way, when this comes up, also generate a task to say you've got to do this, and we can do that by automation, which we can show next week, if the case study warrants it. But if I go, for the moment, I'll go and show you how we would save you a query. The one thing we don't have on projects is your relationship. Okay. Now,
I think we've done it by accident, because you've put me in as a supplier, and I don't know whether you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, but for me, that tells me which member of my staff is working on this project.
Yes, I would think of a supplier as the guy who comes and drops off the equipment that the plumber's going to install.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's the normal.
So
yeah.
It'll be best if we create a relationship for project lead, perhaps, or we need a name that we need a name that's very clear that they are internal to your organization and that they don't hold this position at the client's company.
I agree. Yep.
So which is it going to be? What do you want to call them?
A bit long-winded, so you might be able to smooth it down, but ASGF project lead.
That sounds perfect. So now we've added that relationship, what we need to do is go and tell it that relationship, because that relationship is only relevant to projects. You're not going to have a project lead connected to a company. You're not going to have a project lead connected to an invoice. So when we can just go into projects and specifically say that the projects can use that relationship.
Yep.
And can there be more than one on a project or not?
No, by definition, there is only one project lead. Whether, and I think at the moment, the other people I'd bring in would be either consultants or third-party people, and I think they fit into your number 4 as a supplier.
Okay, so just for everyone watching, you can set it here that there can be more than one. So for instance, team member, you might have more than one. Supplier, you could have more than one. Project lead, only one. If there's more than one key contact, then it's not a key contact. Company owner, I've said here, you can't have more than one. I suppose you could. There could be multiple company directors. It's just whether you want to connect them all to. You might connect them to the company, but not necessarily to the project.
Yeah.
So I'll save that so that we now have our new relationship. I'll go and change you on the project so that we can build a query for that.
Yeah.
So let me just go here. And on this project, I'm going to change you to project lead.
Nice. And such a great example of the inherent flexibility of Macanta, just to be able to adapt as you not figure out your business, but kind of just think about your business in the way that's required to get a system like Macanta to help you run it. Like Peter, one of Peter's favorite sayings is, "We're never pouring concrete with Macanta."
Yeah, it can all change.
Yep.
So now that we've got that, we've got a couple of projects. We can go and build a query. So we go to the save searches and we say we're going to add a query, and we'll call this next actions this week. So that'll be ones that are due this week. And we're going to say it's, I presume if projects are the same, a project can be linked to several companies.
My answer to that is a project could have a same name from my perspective. So the example I used earlier was Sales Boost. But as soon as I do it for a different company, it is likely to be subtly different. And the analogy I use is, if you want an air filter for a car, everybody knows what an air filter for a car is. But if you buy one for a Jaguar, it won't fit a Mercedes. So although it's the same, it's subtly different. And I think by having the unique identifier that we created a few steps ago, the projects are in fact unique, even though they're doing broadly the same thing in different companies. Does that answer your question, Catherine?
No. Can you, if you give us a bit more detail, Catherine, let's dig into this and just see what you mean.
Maybe unmute her so she can.
Oh, here we go. Let's see whether I can. I'm going to allow Catherine to talk, the button says. Talking permitted.
Hi.
Catherine, can you hear us?
Hey, Catherine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, just about.
Got rain going in the background. It's supposed to be calming me. Music. It's not real rain. I'm thinking of a project as, I suppose, a product that I'm going to be supplying. So I would supply different things to my customers.
Yeah. So, and is that a finite list of things you would supply to them, or is there an ever-growing, expanding
No,
list?
they could have a combination.
Pardon?
They could have a combination of projects.
Okay.
But each project would be exactly the same.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't call it a product. I probably wouldn't call it a project, but in this example.
Yeah, so in that instance, I would still create one, because we can set, and I'll go back and show it, just remind me if I forget, but we can set default values for the fields. So if you need projects to always contain the same values in the fields, then you set those defaults, but you would still create a new project, a product data object item for each of your companies or clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
So there'll be carbon copies, but of course, because you want to run automation to the individuals or around the individuals and that data for a particular client, you don't want to cross them over.
No, that makes sense. Thank you.
No problem at all. Okay, so we want to build a list for projects. And now, again, a bit like we did with automation, we can set criteria. So here I'm going to say that the next action date is, and between 0 day, which is today, and 7 days, which is 7 days from today. So if the next action date is in the next 7 days, it'll appear on this list.
Yep.
And you can, to catch yourself for missing deadlines, you can say if it's between -7 days and 7 days, then you cover both ends. And we're going to say that it is for the project lead, because that's the person who needs to track this. And in this instance, you can then say that the user needs to be the project lead. So this is actually going to be the key contact, because we want the client's details, and then the user is going to be the project lead. And what you have the ability to do is you can either make it that this is only for the leads where Charles is the project lead or where Peter is the project lead. And then in that instance, you have to build 2 lists, or you can just say it's for the logged in user. And therefore, when I log in, I'll only on my list see those that I am the project lead for. When you log in, you'll only see those that you're the project lead for. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it at any for the moment, because I'm logged in as me and not you, and you're connected to the project. So leave it at that. And then I will just add some fields, phone number, and then I want next action date, description type. I'll take all of those. What have I done? Yeah, there we go. And first name, phone number, type, date. I'll move these up. Too many clicks. Drag and drop. Give me drag and drop. Save that. Okay, so now I've got that list. So then we need to go and set those projects to have. So this one, next call, let's just make sure it is there. This is Friday's task. Wow.
Don't worry, your typing is generally significantly better than mine.
So we've got that one there, and you are the project lead. And then we can go to this one and say networking, and that's going to be on Monday. And you are the project lead. Save that. And if I've done all of that right, I should have. Can you see there are task lists?
Yep.
So you can manually today create tasks and put them in there. By the end of the week, that'll all, you can through automation, and they'll appear in those task lists there. So let me just refresh because we've created that list. And I'm not sure if I have access to it. We'll find out. So just to show you the tasks, so you can add a note here that'll then live on the record, or you can assign a task, and then you can say which user is the task for if you manually want to tell someone to do something. But yeah, there's our next actions this week.
Nice.
And that should load up for us. No more questions. And there's the two there. Yep. But now here's the bit that's really nice. Well, I think it's really nice. You can see here, it's me. You can see I'm the company owner and the key contact for this project. It would be handy if I've added the project reference in there so you can see the company name and the project, but that's easy to add as an extra field. But you can then say, okay, well, I've got to call you on that day. That day comes round and you can't get hold of me. So all you need to do is go in and change that, save it. You can change the note again, save it, and then it'll come round in the task list again later on. So you've got that option there. But what you can also do is go to your dashboard, add a widget, next actions, add the widget. I don't have permission, so I'll have to update the permissions. But what you'll end up with is something like this. So you get a dashboard like that, and when you then click on that, it brings up the list as well. And you see this is the default screen when you first log in the morning. So you'll see that and then get access. And you can then just work from there on. You can say, okay, I'm doing my tasks. Click on that, it gives you the list. You can run through them, update them, do whatever you need to do, and then carry on from there. Just to show you where that permission setting is, we're going quite deep this time. So we've got user management, and we've got user management permissions in here. And how our permission templates work, it's a bit like passes at a concert. You 3 A's, you can go wherever you like. And you can say, so we can go in and we can amend this template, and we can go into the access here and say, I want this, anyone who has this template assigned, they can have read-only access to that list. So they can see the tasks, but they can't make changes. And you can do the same for the sections. So that's why here what we'll have is nobody has access to the tracking because when non-actual admins like you or I, the app owners log in, anyone else logs in, they just won't see that it's there because we don't want them to mess with it. And again, you can do that with a tab as well. So you can say, well, actually, I don't want anyone to have access to the invoice, but that's just for me when I log in. Other users, when they log in, that tab just won't exist.
Yeah.
And you can create multiple templates that way and then give people, assign for different roles within your business. You can then assign the different user templates.
It's common practice with a lot of programs or things that can be messed up that the user, which in some cases is me, wouldn't have or wouldn't be logged in as admin. I mean, like at the basic level, a laptop, you have an admin who can do absolutely anything on the laptop.
Yeah.
And then it's considered best practice that the normal person who's using it logs in as a user, and it's only when he wants to change something he makes himself admin. Do you have that concept as well?
Yeah, you can assign that. So all you need to do, what you would need to do in that instance is have 2 email addresses, 2 contacts, one which is actually the admin, which would be your account as it stands at the moment, but you can add yourself as another user with a different email address. And when you apply a user permission to it, and when you then log in as that user, you only have those permissions.
Okay.
For that. Which is, it's entirely up to you how you want to do that. I spend half my life in the admin section, so I just tend to.
Yeah, I'll probably start off as admin and just leave it. But
I think that's where we are for this evening.
That's a pretty good first iteration, would you say, Charlie?
I would, yes. I shall enjoy filling some of that in and having a play with it, because as you said, there's one thing to build it, but then when you actually go in to use it, you sort of have little light bulb moments and think, I forgot to ask you for
Yeah. And hopefully you've seen this evening how easy it is just to change it on the fly, and
Yes, I've seen how easy it is for Peter to change it on the fly.
That's a bit. Yes, it's like my younger brother is a classical pianist, and it's the same. When he sits and plays, it looks as effortful as making a cup of tea.
Yeah. And he just flows, and wouldn't that be fantastic if we could do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, Charlie, really appreciate the opportunity to find out a bit more about your business and to work with you to build this first iteration of your Macanta CRM, and to have a case study as on the back of it.
Thank you.
So any questions from anyone else? Catherine, thanks for yours. Some insightful questions there.
Eugene's been very quiet this week. Is it a bit of I've seen it all before, or?
Maybe he's got a bot that just automatically
webinars.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're going to be here same time, same place next week with another webinar with a different business. Yeah. And if you're up for it, we'll see you then.
Eugene's just confirmed he's not a bot.
Excellent. Thanks again, Charlie.
Okay. Where do we go from here? Can I log into what you've done? Is that on my login?
Yeah. It's on your account. So the login details you have is active, and you can go in and play.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much indeed.
No problem. You're welcome.
See you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.